I sent a text message to my friend. Hey, someone is singing outside and keeps repeating the same part. LOL, should I sing along with her? Not long after, my friend responded, and then I had to shut the window quietly because I was terrified. The text said, "Don't do that. That's a ghost." This happened not long after we moved into our house in 2003. It was a nice and big house, which was made in the 1950s. One day I was in my backyard watering the grass, and then out of the corner of my eye, I saw something that made me pause. There was a man standing next to the shrubs near our backyard's wall. He was dressed like a carpenter. His head looked like it was tilted sideways, and his body was slightly facing our fences sideways. Then he saw me and smiled kindly at me. At first, I thought he was fixing someone's house, and that it was his job. However, only after he faced me, I realized that wasn't the case. When I looked at him with narrowed eyes, I noticed that his neck was visibly broken, causing his head to awkwardly tilt to the side. I then saw that he waved at me once, but I was too shocked to scream at the time. After I regained consciousness, I looked around, but he had vanished and had literally faded away. 2 nights later, I woke up at 3 a.m. Noise was coming from my ceiling. It sounded like someone wearing construction boots was walking very slowly. I started to freak out, thinking that it might be a thief. However, I suddenly realized that that part of the roof was so thin, which meant nobody could walk on it. The steps abruptly stopped after a while, and when I felt at ease, I heard another horrible sound. I heard a sharp scream that sounded like a man, then a loud thud, as if someone had dropped on my ceiling, followed after. I covered my head with a blanket. My hands and whole body shivered, and after 10 minutes of nothing, I peeked outside. It was completely quiet. I saw and heard nothing, but I couldn't fall back asleep that night. The next morning, I started to look up the history of the house. To my surprise, it turned out that there was a report about the carpenter I met a few days before in the backyard. In 1958, he had been hired to fix the roof while the owners were on vacation. However, the carpenter had fallen abruptly through the weak spot on the roof while he was working and had broken his neck. He couldn't scream for help, and no one ever knew what happened to him as the owners were gone for 2 weeks. He was finally found when they came back, but had already died. This happened right above my bedroom. Suddenly, I felt bad for the poor guy, and I guess he's still looking after things. Since then, I've seen him sometimes, but I'm no longer afraid of him.
This story is about when I first moved to the city and joined the company. Our company was running a dormitory at the time, and I was the one from the countryside, so I decided to stay in the dormitory. One day after work, I came back to the dormitory and was eating my dinner with the TV on. It was almost midnight after working overtime. I was laughing and watching some comedy shows, and then I felt a sudden strangeness. You know, like it feels like someone is staring at you. Feeling weird, I turned my head toward the window, and I couldn't move as my whole body stiffened with a tremendous chill. I couldn't even scream. The woman's face was stuck in the window as I turned casually to look, and she was staring at me without any movement. Now, let's think about it. The windows in the dorm were not even small. It was just the size of a normal person's upper body. But look, a face big enough to fill that size of a window? Can you imagine what it was? And what was scarier was, I was on the 5th floor at the time. How could she even stand over there, staring at me? I was frozen. I couldn't run away. I could only just watch her glaring eyes. It was lucky that I could move, as the ghost disappeared the moment someone knocked on my door. One of my coworkers in the next room came to my room saying that he had something urgent to do. And when he looked at my pale face, he asked me if I was okay. So I explained to him what I had just saw. And then his face looked a little stiff. Well, he didn't say anything anymore, but I knew it.